Commander Elias Thorn had seen many strange things while patrolling the barren colonies of old Earth, but nothing like the signal that appeared on his scanner that night. The desert was silent, the wind brushing over the metallic sand like a whisper of ghosts, when his radar caught a faint pulse coming from beyond the ridge, steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. He followed it through the ruins of what had once been a mining camp, the ground cracked and glowing faintly under the starlight. When he reached the source, his eyes widened. A small escape pod lay half buried in the sand, smoke curling up from its broken hull. The insignia on its side was ancient, one that hadn't been seen for centuries. It belonged to the Orithian Empire, a civilization believed to have vanished long before humanity learned to travel among the stars. He forced open the hatch, his suit sensors flickering as radiation danced in the air, and inside, under a torn emergency blanket, he saw her. A young alien girl, frail, trembling, her skin pale with veins of soft blue light running through it. Her body seemed cracked, as if every bone inside her glowed faintly from within. She looked at him through half-closed eyes that shimmered like galaxies, and with a trembling voice she whispered, "End me quickly." Elias froze. His breath caught in his throat. The words were not of rage or fear, but of exhaustion, like someone who had fought too long. He reached for his scanner. Her vitals were unstable, energy signatures beyond human understanding. Every pulse from her body made the air around her hum. She wasn't dying in the way humans did. Her energy was collapsing inward, her body trying to contain something immense. The thought of leaving her there crossed his mind. Protocol demanded it. Unknown species, unknown risk. But something in her eyes stopped him. She didn't look like an enemy. She looked like someone who had lost everything. Carefully, he lifted her from the wreckage. She was light, almost weightless, as if made of glass and starlight. The fractures on her skin glowed brighter with every step he took, but when he covered her again with the emergency blanket, the light dimmed, like she was hiding her pain beneath it. His communicator crackled with voices from the command center demanding a report, but he turned it off. He didn't trust them with this, not yet. The stories about what the higher command did to alien survivors were not myths. They would dissect her before they ever tried to understand her. As he carried her toward his rover, he noticed strange symbols etched on the inside of her pod, patterns that matched the ruins scattered across the wastelands of Earth's first colonies. It wasn't a random crash. She had come here for a reason. The drive back to base was quiet except for the hum of the rover and her faint breathing. Each time he glanced back, he saw faint sparks of light leaking from the edges of the blanket, like stars flickering in a dying galaxy. When they reached his outpost, the AI gate denied entry, warning of biohazard contamination. He bypassed it manually, forcing open the gate with override codes, knowing this act alone could cost him his career. Inside the medbay, he placed her gently on the diagnostic bed. The systems beeped rapidly, trying to analyze her but failing to identify her biology. It was as if she wasn't built from cells and tissue, but from energy wrapped in flesh. When the light from her fractures reflected off the steel walls, it painted the room in ghostly blue shades. Elias knelt beside her and whispered, "You're safe now." She stirred slightly, her voice so soft it was almost lost in the hum of machines. "No one is safe," she said. "They will come for me. For this." Her trembling hand touched her chest where the fractures met in a glowing spiral. "It's breaking. And when it breaks, everything breaks." Elias didn't understand, but he saw terror in her eyes, terror that came not from pain, but from memory. Somewhere out there, something had destroyed her home, and whatever it wasn't finished yet. Outside, the wind rose again, carrying sand like falling ash. The scanners flickered, showing brief static and then silence. For a moment, Elias thought it was just interference. Then a faint echo pulsed through the air, the same rhythm as before, steady and alive. But this time it wasn't coming from the pod. It was coming from the sky above. Elias stood frozen as the pulse from the sky grew stronger, each wave vibrating through the walls of his outpost like a silent drumbeat. The alien girl, still lying weakly under the blanket, opened her eyes again, the glow within them brighter and more focused now. "They found me," she whispered, her voice trembling but certain. Elias turned to the window. Above the desert horizon, faint streaks of light began to appear, descending slowly like falling stars. He felt a chill crawl down his spine. He had seen enemy dropships before. This wasn't one of them. These lights were silent, moving with unnatural precision, their glow faintly blue like the cracks running through her skin. He rushed to his console and scrambled to activate the defense grid, but the system refused to respond. It was as if the entire outpost was being jammed by something unseen. The girl, breathing heavily, looked at him with quiet desperation. "If they reach us, the core inside me will react," she said, her hand clutching her chest. "It's not a weapon. It's a prison. My energy can't be released again." Elias frowned, trying to make sense of her words. "Your core?" he asked. She nodded weakly. "My people once used living energy to power our worlds. I was part of the containment system, a stabilizer. But when the Devourers came, they broke the chain. I escaped before my body collapsed completely." Her voice faltered as a wave of light passed through her, cracking her luminous skin further. "Now it's breaking faster. The energy inside me isn't just mine anymore. It is everything that was left of my world." Elias felt his heart race. He realized that if her containment failed, the explosion could destroy the entire colony. Yet, as he looked at her, trembling and afraid, he couldn't bring himself to see her as a threat. "Then we fix it," he said firmly. "There must be a way to stabilize your core." The girl shook her head. "No human technology can." Elias stood silent for a moment, thinking, then grabbed his communicator and pulled out the signal chip from his scanner. "We'll make one," he said. "I'll connect our systems to your biology. Maybe we can balance the frequency." He didn't know if it would work, but it was better than doing nothing. As he connected wires to the medbed, the lights outside grew closer. The outpost shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The radar showed 4 unidentified crafts approaching fast. Lyra's breathing became shallow, her glow intensifying like a storm trapped in glass. "If they find me," she said, "they won't stop. They'll take what's inside me and then Earth will burn too." Elias tightened the last cable and placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then we don't let them take you." When the system powered up, a sharp hum filled the room, the monitors flashing with mixed human and alien data. The translator flickered, displaying a faint reading. Her energy pattern was resonating with Earth's magnetic field. Elias's eyes widened. "Your energy is syncing with the planet," he said. Lyra looked surprised. "That's impossible. Unless this world still remembers us." Before she could explain further, the entire base shuddered violently. The sky outside lit up as beams of white light sliced through the storm clouds. Elias dashed to the window and saw something incredible. The crafts weren't attacking. They were scanning the surface, searching for her signal. But something else was emerging from behind them. Black, shapeless clouds moving like living smoke, devouring the light as they came. Lyra's face turned pale. "The Devourers," she whispered. "They followed me here." The words hit Elias like a hammer. He turned to her, his mind racing. If those things reached her, her energy would react catastrophically. He had to move her somewhere safe. But where? The outpost was already compromised. Then an idea struck him. There was an old underground facility sealed decades ago beneath the colony ruins, a research station built during the First War. It had energy dampeners strong enough to mask her signal. He grabbed a thermal cloak and wrapped her in it. "We're leaving," he said. She tried to protest, but he didn't listen. Carrying her in his arms again, he stepped out into the storm. The sky above was alive with streaks of light and swirling shadows. Every instinct told him to run faster. The hum in the air grew deafening, his scanner flickering with interference. As they reached the edge of the dunes, a beam of darkness struck the ground behind them, burning the sand into glass. Elias didn't look back. Somewhere deep underground lay their only chance. But as they vanished into the wasteland, one of the crafts turned, its scanners locking onto their trail. The hunt had begun. Elias ran through the storm as lightning split the dark sky, the alien girl's faint glow lighting the path ahead like a guiding star. The roar of the devourers echoed behind them, an eerie hum not made by engines or machines but by something alive and ancient. The sands shifted violently under their feet as if the desert itself wanted to swallow them. Elias knew the underground facility wasn't far. He remembered seeing its coordinates in an old military file. Sector 19, an abandoned research base buried deep beneath the dunes. With every step, Lyra grew weaker, her energy flickering like a dying flame. "You have to leave me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If they sense my core, they'll come faster." Elias shook his head, gripping her tighter. "Not a chance," he said. "You're not dying here." His words were firm, but fear crept inside him. The devourers' shadows were getting closer, stretching across the horizon, swallowing everything in their path. He spotted the rusted metal entrance half buried under the sand and hurried toward it. With a loud creak, the doors opened, releasing a wave of cold air. The corridors beyond were dark, silent, and untouched for decades. As the doors shut behind them, the noise outside faded, leaving only the echo of their footsteps. The facility was still powered. Dim lights flickered along the ceiling, drawing pale lines down the narrow hallways. "This place feels alive," Lyra said softly, her eyes scanning the glowing walls. "It recognizes me." Elias frowned. "Recognizes you?" She nodded faintly. "The Orithians helped build the first Terran colonies. Our knowledge became your foundation. This technology, it carries our code." Elias was speechless. Humanity's first contact story had always been a mystery, a tale lost to war and time. But now, standing in this forgotten base, he realized the truth had been buried, literally. He led her into the central chamber where old computers and sealed glass pods lined the walls. Dust covered everything, yet the air felt charged, like the place had been waiting. When he placed Lyra on a diagnostic bed, the machines flickered to life without him touching a single button. Symbols glowed across the monitors, human script blending with the same alien markings from her ship. "It's responding to your presence," Elias said in awe. Lyra reached out, her hand trembling as she touched one of the glowing panels. A soft hum filled the room, and suddenly, holographic data filled the air. Ancient records of energy transfers, blueprints, and coordinates of lost colonies. "These are memories," Lyra whispered. "Your ancestors hid our history here." She looked at him, eyes filled with wonder and sorrow. "Humans and Orithians were connected once. That's why my energy resonates with this planet. We share the same origin." Elias's mind spun with the revelation. "Then maybe," he said slowly, "we can use this link to stabilize your core." Lyra hesitated. "If I merge with this system, it might work, but it could also erase me completely." Elias clenched his jaw. "We'll take that risk together." He started connecting her to the ancient network, attaching energy conduits to her wrists and chest. The machines hummed louder, their lights growing brighter until the room was bathed in blue. Lyra closed her eyes, focusing her energy. For a moment, the fractures in her skin stopped spreading. The glow steadied, smooth and calm. "It's working," Elias whispered. But before relief could settle, the base alarms blared to life. The motion sensors detected movement outside, multiple entities approaching fast. Elias rushed to the main screen, and what he saw chilled him to the bone. Human ships, his own command's fleet, were descending toward their position. "They found us," he muttered. Lyra's eyes widened. "Those are your people?" "Yes," Elias said grimly. "And they're not here to help." Static filled the speakers as a transmission came through. "Commander Thorn, this is Captain Varen. You are ordered to stand down and surrender the alien life form immediately." Elias muted the signal and turned back to Lyra. "They won't save you. They want your power." Lyra's glow pulsed anxiously. "Then they're no different from the Devourers." Elias looked toward the sealed door. The two threats were closing in from opposite sides, his own fleet above, and the Devourers crawling through the sand below. There was nowhere left to run. He steadied his breath and checked the old defense systems, but most were offline. Still, one control panel caught his eye. Energy dampener core. Manual override possible. He turned to Lyra. "If we activate this, it'll hide your signal. It might buy us time." She nodded weakly. "Do it." Elias slammed his hand onto the switch. The base shook, lights dimming to red as the dampening field spread across the chamber. The energy outside vanished from the scanners. For a moment, silence returned. But then, faintly, a low rumble echoed through the floor. The Devourers had found the facility. Lyra's fingers tightened around Elias's hand. "If they break through, there won't be a planet left," she said softly. Elias met her glowing eyes, his expression calm but resolute. "Then we stop them here," he said. And as the ground above them began to crack open, the light from her core flared, bright enough to challenge the darkness. The ground trembled like a living thing as the Devourers broke through the surface above, sending waves of dust and debris cascading through the tunnels. The dim red lights flickered violently, painting the walls in streaks of blood and shadow. Elias gritted his teeth, steadying himself beside the console while Lyra lay on the diagnostic bed, her glow intensifying with every tremor. "They're breaching the outer wall," he said, scanning the sensors. The readings made no sense. Whatever the Devourers were, they weren't made of matter. The instruments couldn't register their shape or size, only the spreading void that followed them. "They consume energy itself," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "They feed on the light of creation. When they reach me, they'll drain my core and use it to devour everything left in this system." Elias's stomach twisted at her words. He turned toward the access terminal overriding safety locks and began rerouting power to the lower defense grid. But before he could activate it, the entire room flashed white. A shockwave rolled through the corridors, and when it faded, he heard the unmistakable sound of landing thrusters. The humans had arrived. The base's upper doors hissed open, and heavy boots thundered down the main hall. The sound of mechanical exosuits clanking against steel filled the air. Lyra's eyes widened. "Your soldiers," she said. "They're here." Elias ran to the main panel and brought up the security feed. On the screen, armored troops were moving through the corridors with weapons drawn. At their center stood Captain Varen, his former commanding officer. "Elias Thorn," Varen's voice echoed through the base's speakers, amplified and cold. "You're in direct violation of interplanetary law. Step away from the alien and surrender." Elias slammed his fist against the console, frustration and disbelief surging through him. "You don't understand," he shouted. "She's not a threat. She's a living containment. If you harm her, the core will destabilize." But Varen didn't listen. His soldiers advanced in formation, weapons humming with plasma charge. Lyra tried to sit up, but the movement made the fractures along her arms flare brighter. "You can't let them take me," she whispered. "If they remove the containment shell, it will ignite." Elias turned, eyes fierce with determination. "Then they'll have to go through me first." He grabbed his sidearm, though he knew it was useless against a full squad. He sealed the lab door and activated the manual lockdown. The corridor outside darkened as heavy shutters fell into place. "Elias," Varen's voice came again, quieter now, almost pitying. "You always had a hero complex. Don't die for a mistake." Elias didn't respond. Instead, he focused on the control panel displaying Lyra's vitals. Her energy was rising fast, dangerously close to overload. The stabilizer field wasn't holding. "You can't stay here," he told her. "We'll move deeper into the tunnels. There's a reactor core beneath us. If we connect your energy to it, maybe it can hold the charge." Lyra's expression softened. "You'd risk everything for someone you barely know?" Elias managed a faint smile. "You're not just someone. You're proof that we were never alone." Before either could say more, the wall behind them exploded inward. Soldiers poured in, the air thick with smoke and dust. Elias fired a few warning shots, forcing them to take cover. "Stop!" he shouted. "If you fire, you'll kill us all!" But the order had already been given. One of the soldiers raised his weapon, and then the lights went out. Total darkness. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then a sound, deep, hollow, and wrong, rose from below. The devourers had reached the lower levels. The floor vibrated as shadows began seeping through cracks in the concrete, moving like liquid smoke. Varen's soldiers turned their lights toward it, and the moment the beams touched the darkness, they vanished, consumed instantly. Screams echoed, then were cut short. Elias pulled Lyra close, shielding her as the darkness spread like a tide. "They're feeding on the power grid," Lyra gasped. "It's too late." "No," Elias said, his voice low and steady. "Not yet." He reached for the stabilizer controls and reactivated the core override. The base's systems surged, lights flickering back on, forcing the shadows to recoil slightly. "You said your energy could protect us," he reminded her. "You can channel it, can't you?" Lyra's hands trembled. "If I open the containment, I might not survive." "If you don't," Elias said, gripping her shoulders, "no one will." Her eyes met his, bright, uncertain, full of sorrow. For a long second, nothing moved. Then she nodded. "Stay close," she whispered. The air around her shimmered, her body glowing until it hurt to look at. The fractures along her skin turned into rivers of light. A soft hum filled the room, rising into a symphony of energy that pulsed through the walls. The darkness screamed, a high, shrill sound that made the metal tremble. For the first time, the devourers recoiled. "You're doing it," Elias said, shielding his face. "You're holding them back." But Lyra's voice was fading. "I can't hold it long." The glow around her intensified until it filled every corner of the chamber. And then, in the middle of that blinding light, Elias saw something move, a form taking shape behind her, massive and glowing. It wasn't a shadow this time. It was a figure of pure light, rising like a guardian. The devourers hesitated. The battle for survival had begun, and the line between human and alien had just disappeared forever. The underground base shook like the heart of a dying world as light and darkness collided. The guardian of light that rose behind Lyra expanded, its form shifting between energy and matter, resembling neither human nor Orithian, but something ancient, something born from both. Its radiance filled the tunnels, forcing the devourers to retreat into the cracks of space itself. Elias shielded his eyes as the brilliance surged, yet through the glare he saw Lyra standing tall, her once broken body whole again. The fractures had vanished, replaced by streams of light running gently across her skin like rivers of dawn. "Lyra!" he called, struggling to reach her, his voice nearly lost beneath the roar of the energy storm. She turned slowly, her expression calm but distant, her voice now echoing with a strange harmony. "The containment is gone. I can feel every life, every particle around us. The energy inside me is no longer trapped." Elias looked around. The soldiers who survived stood frozen, their weapons lowered, their eyes wide with disbelief. Even Captain Varen, who had stormed in with authority and anger, now stared at the glowing figure before him, speechless. The guardian behind Lyra raised its arms, releasing a wave of light that rippled through the base, disintegrating the remaining devourer shadows. When the brilliance faded, only silence remained, the kind of silence that follows a storm. The air was warm, soft, and alive again. Elias stepped closer. "You did it," he said quietly. Lyra looked at him, her eyes like galaxies in motion. "No," she whispered. "We did it. The fusion between my core and this world's energy changed everything. Your world and mine are linked again." She turned toward the control panel where data flickered in new symbols, part human, part Orithian. "The old technology has awakened. Earth remembers us." Outside, the scanners displayed something extraordinary. Across the dead wasteland, blue lights began to flicker on the horizon, ancient beacons buried beneath the sand, lighting up one by one, forming a vast network that stretched beyond the colony. Elias stared at the screen in awe. "It's like the planet is waking up." Lyra nodded slowly. "For centuries, both our kinds have lived in the dark, forgetting what we once shared. But now, the energy that connects us is whole again." Captain Varen took a cautious step forward, his voice trembling. "What happens now?" Lyra looked at him, her tone calm yet firm. "Now you remember. You stop fighting what you don't understand. The devourers were born from fear, from the hunger of those who consumed without balance. You cannot destroy them with weapons. You overcome them with unity." Elias glanced at Varen, who slowly lowered his weapon. The rest of the soldiers followed, the tension dissolving into quiet acceptance. The base lights steadied, the alarms ceased, and the once broken chamber felt peaceful for the first time in ages. Lyra walked to Elias, her energy dimming to a gentle glow. "Your courage changed more than you know," she said softly. "You saw me not as a threat, but as someone worth saving. That choice restored what was lost." Elias smiled faintly, exhaustion written on his face. "You make it sound like destiny." She smiled back. Maybe it was. The ground above them shifted again, but this time it wasn't destruction. It was renewal. The desert winds calmed, and the scanners showed vegetation beginning to reappear where there had been nothing but dust. Lyra looked upward, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. "The energy that sustained me belongs to this world now. My part in it is ending." Elias stepped closer, panic in his chest. "No, you don't have to go." She placed a hand over his heart, her touch warm, steady. "Everything ends, Elias. But endings give birth to beginnings. You'll carry the light now." Her body shimmered, breaking apart into thousands of small glowing fragments that rose into the air like fireflies. They swirled around him, filling the room with a soft, peaceful hum. When the last fragment vanished into the air, the guardian of light bowed once, then dissolved into the same golden dust. Elias stood alone, the silence returning, but it was not empty. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, bathing the wasteland in gold. The old machines of the colony began to stir, their systems rebooting after centuries of silence. He looked at the glowing sky and whispered, "Rest well, Lyra. I'll make sure they remember." Far above the planet, unknown to him, satellites long thought dead began transmitting again, sending signals deep into space. One by one, distant stars blinked in response. Somewhere, across the void, others were awakening too. Humanity had reignited a connection that had slept for ages, and for the first time in centuries, the universe felt alive again.